Alright, chemistry folks, welcome to chemical reactions, my favorite unit. First thing we're going to do is talk about chemical reactions and how you can tell that they've occurred. There's a lot of reasons, but some of the main reasons are is if I have a change in color. So if something changes from one color to the next or from clear to foggy, you know that a chemical change has occurred. A lot of times there's always a temperature change, and that can be in the direction of a hot or cold. Some chemical reactions give off light. Light is a chemical reaction. Another one that you may be more familiar with is that some chemical reactions give off a gas, and you can tell because in the formation of gas bubbles is usually how we see that. Alright, so one you may not be familiar with is what's called a precipitate. A precipitate is the formation of a solid, some sort of solid that forms in the container. It's not always going to be a chunky solid. Sometimes it'll look very cloudy or something along those lines. So what you need to be able to do is explain or determine if a chemical reaction has occurred. So here I have in picture number 1, I have this is a clear liquid and this is a clear liquid. Oh, hold on one second here. Alright, clear liquid, and when I pour them together there's this formation of what looks like this white fuzzy stuff, and that's actually what we call a precipitate. So that's a solid inside the container. When leaves on the trees, they're green out in summertime, and then they turn these darker colors. It's hard to tell in this picture because it's black and white, but basically the leaves changing colors on the tree, that is a color change. That is a chemical reaction. An example number 3 here, picture number 3, you have bread dough. Here's the dough, and then here's what the bread looks like. And basically what happens is inside of the dough, a chemical reaction goes on. It produces a gas. The gas makes these little bubbles, and in some bread dough it's harder to tell than others, but if you were to look at it, you would see tiny, tiny, tiny little openings inside of the bread where the gas bubbles were formed. And so baking bread is a chemical change. Works a lot in the same way as cheese too. That's how we get whole wheat cheese. So you'll have a practice sheet here, and you'll have to decide if something is a chemical change, and write a C next to that if it's a chemical change, or if something is a physical change. In that case you want to write a P. So if I break glass, that really hasn't changed the chemical makeup of the glass. That would be a physical change. If I'm hammering wood together, like if I'm building a playhouse, I haven't changed chemically the physical structure of wood. The cellulose is still there, so that's also a physical change. But if I burn it, if I take the wood or the leaves or the cellulose or the plant material and I apply heat, and then there's a production of a gas and a liquid and it turns to ash, that's a chemical change. So what we'd like you to do here is just go through some of these examples and see if you can discover if they are a chemical or physical change.